Casper, there's a lot of things happening in the commodity market as always. Is it not oil? Is it not metal? But today we're going to talk about one very important commodity, which is copper. And why copper? Because a lot is to be expected, no?
Yes, to just start with it, if you see at the demand of copper until 2040, so that's 16 years,
Yeah,
it will be 50% plus.
yeah. So from everything that there's now, 50% more. Yeah,
And the existing mines and the companies, they can only deliver what they have now, 16%.
1/6 of that 50%.
And it's always, yes, it's always interesting or good to invest. We are investors, you are an investor, to invest in a certain area, sector that
Of which you
for
know.
sure it's growing.
Yeah. 100%.
And maybe it will be 40, maybe 60. For sure it will be growing. So I think this is really interesting with the investors with a long time horizon to look at.
Absolutely. And there's different ways to do that. You can buy, of course, producers, but you can also buy the product itself.
Yes.
You can go on the street and look for it. That's also what the people do, and they sell it at specific places. But what we can say about the copper price itself, we can see that it is in January we had a really high peak. It was about £4 35 or something like that, and now it is trading at below the 200-day moving average, and that's always an interesting moment to evaluate because then of course when it's trading below that, the market has gone down. And why it has gone down is basically was a lot of expectation in it that the Chinese economy would demand more copper, and on the short term they actually have not been doing that, and it's mainly because construction in China has not been booming as it was before the whole lockdown scenario. So the consumer demand of copper has increased, but in China we can really see that the big demand for infrastructure and construction and etc. Therefore, it has not been picking up so much. If you look at how you can invest in it, there's actually two ways. You can buy the HG copper future, which is directly. It's pretty straightforward. Then it's the difficult part here is that you have to know which future to buy. And what's funny to see now is that you can see that the short-term futures are trading at low prices, around 3.75, and the longer-term futures in a year, they're above 4. So there's a big gap there.
It's also logical.
It's logical, yeah, because they expect that the price will go up. Obviously, that's what. But you can see that already in the future prices. So if you buy short term, you know that you will be paying the difference. So be careful with that if you don't know how it really works. And also, the future contract is quite big. It's $95,000 of copper worth, approximately 25,000 pounds weight, about 13,000 kilos that you're buying of copper directly. But it might be a little bit too excessive for depending on how much money you have, of course, for a portfolio, because that's big sum. If you want to do a smaller size, you can do it, and also want exposure, you can buy the Wisdom Tree ETC coppers, exchange traded commodity, which is also giving you direct exposure. Also made up with futures, but then the whole technical mechanisms are being dealt with for you by an ETF house. So two ways: Wisdom Tree copper or the HG copper future. That's how you can invest in it. But there's also another possibility.
You can
these two boys don't give dividends. You have a very good solution for that if you also look for dividends.
Yeah, and I think it's like always, if you combine those things, if you believe in this sector, then you can look at a investment in copper itself, which you just gave, but also in companies, the mining companies.
Yes.
And mining companies in general are always a little bit risky.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at the copper mining, they are more stable on average than mining companies. Because they're really big minings, and they produce steady income.
Steady income, yeah.
And what this week was in the news, there was a mine opened in Mongolia. It was called the Oyo Tolgoi mine. At the end, Rio Tinto was the main shareholder. They bought it from another company in the last 20 years. And it's a huge project. It took them almost 20 years to build it. And that's also something, if the price of copper is low or high, to make a new mine, to make it active, that you can't speed up that process. And the thing is, because of the prices are relatively low now, a lot of mining companies don't want to invest a lot, but it's not from today or yesterday. That's for decades
For
already.
decades, yeah, longer term, yeah.
So they are there are two different angles from that. So they are not investing, but the whole sector knows that demand, 50% plus,
Yeah,
is coming up.
It's coming.
So you see a lot of mergers and acquisitions
Okay.
in that sector, and they're really large companies. So if you invest in those companies, you don't invest in small companies. You
they're
invest
not
in-
exploration companies, no? They're
No.
already getting it out of the ground.
Yeah. And for example, the one that they just opened that has 200 kilometers network of concrete tunnels, and they are working 20,000 people in that mine, and they have their own network of roads, and they have an own airport, and also electricity supply is really
Must be
important.
huge, yeah.
So one thing on the contrary that and then Tesla, for example, has the bigger Teslas. They have 80 kilo of copper inside the car. On the other hand, last month or this month, the beginning of this month, Elon Musk said, okay, we want to probably bring down the battery or bring up from 12 volts to 46, and that requires only 25% of the copper. But yeah, it's not only the cars, but we didn't say it in the beginning. Why is the demand so big? Because of the transition, the energy transition.
Exactly.
And not only in the car, but also in the streets, no?
In the street, yeah. No, definitely.
You know, figure about New York.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at New York as a city, I mean, to make everything electrical, you need the same amount of copper than that is used at this moment. So I was there last weekend, and if you see the amount of lights that were on at night, specifically at one, specifically at at Times Square, for instance, the amount of electricity that is used there, and so it's a pretty big challenge, I think, to get to this point. I also read if you want to make everything electrical vehicles, and it's only vehicles, then you need the same amount of copper than the human society. So, but I'm talking about since we are using it as something to guide electricity through. So for the airplanes, for everything, the same amount of copper that we have used until today. So if all the copper that has been used since human beings are using copper,
I think so. Again, you know, the demand
will be there and will be increasing. It's also
and more or less, but it will increase. So I think it's good for if you have a long time horizon to make use of it.
Yeah.
And if you look in the industry, it's the third largest metal that is used: iron and
aluminium.
Aluminium, and then copper. And maybe that will take the first place. Okay.
Yeah,
Enough about that.
very
You
well.
can also invest in companies, and we looked at 5 companies. And what is important to take in consideration, not only how they're doing now, but how are they invested for the future.
Exactly.
And one point to look at is the proven copper reserves that they have. And then you see quite a difference. So one of those companies has, for example, 18 million tons, and the other one has 44. So take that in consideration if you invest in it. But again, you can also create your own basket by those 5 or by 10 companies. And again, the large companies, the first one is BHP with a market cap of more than $150 billion.
That's the biggest one. Yeah,
it's the biggest one.
Then they are profitable.
Yes, they're profitable. The thing is that they expect this year less profit, also mainly
because
due
of the investments. China.
Due to China. And that you also see in the whole sector, the earnings per share of those companies are quite close to each other. It's always good because then you know that's the average in the sector.
Yeah.
They have an earnings per share of 8, so that's really good. I think they have also a cooperation with Rio Tinto, almost 50%, and within that cooperation, they want to build a new mine. And for example, to give you some figures, that will cost $64 billion to build it. And you see, they can't do it alone. They don't want to do it alone to spread the risk. So you see all kind of cooperations with other companies. Even the biggest one does it. Then you have Freeport, and Freeport was the owner of the mine that was opened last week in Mongolia. And Rio Tinto bought it. It was a quite aggressive process, also with with Mongolia itself, because
yeah.
they have 35% of for the future revenues they will get. But on the other hand, they give also a lot away, of course.
Of course.
That's also what you should take because the countries that they operate are not like the Western countries. So we have to take in consideration which country you
of
you
course,
invest.
absolutely.
Freeport has high reserves, 36 million tons, so it's quite high. And I think that's the positive side. If you look at the chart, year to date is quite under pressure. If you look at the market, the analysts, the stock price is 35, and the target price is between 29 and 50. So really difficult. I think it's a little bit more difficult company to invest in. Then you have TECK from Canada.
TECK.
Yeah, they announced to sell or to split their steel part, so they will really want to concentrate on the copper part. And they, for example, have a cooperation with Glencore.
Okay.
And they are also developing together a new mine. And that will be in Chile, for example. That's what I meant by the countries that the mines are you should realize which country you're operating. The price earning is also 8, is also good, it's interesting. The dividend is not that positive, but the market outlook of the analysts, it's a strong buy, so that's really positive. So that was that one. Okay, then Southern Copper Corporation, also price earning of 8. I don't know.
All the same, eh? All the same valuation.
Yeah, and oh no, sorry, I made a mistake. That was also interesting, but the share price is better this year, yeah, they have a dividend of 4%, so that's quite good because you said, okay, you have some companies with high dividends, but the last one, so the owner of the mine that was opened this week, Rio Tinto, they have a dividend of around 7% and also price earning of 8. And the share price dropped a lot, but that is mainly because they are also huge in lithium. They do much more than copper, so you also have to be, you must be aware that some companies only use copper, but they are also in aluminium and diamonds and gold. It's a really big company.
And I see they make £6 per share profit and they pay out 3.8, no?
Yeah, they have 7% dividends.
Yeah, but they only pay out half of the earnings.
Yeah.
They do keep a lot of reserves.
Yeah, they invest in the
but that is good because because sometimes you see that they're paying more, and then of course that's not always the best thing.
And if you believe in lithium, it dropped a lot, 60% in since 2022. So if you believe in that, because it's, I don't say correlation, but it's with electric transition, lithium is really important. So if lithium will go up and copper will go up, Rio Tinto is really interesting, and you buy it now for price earnings of 8. So I think it's really interesting. So you don't pay too much for those companies. It's a long-term investment, I think, if you want to invest in it. Do your homework, combine them, buy a couple of them at a large companies that pay out dividends. The one pays out more than the other one. But I think for the long term, really interesting sector.
Yeah. And also if you want to buy directly, I gave you 2 examples. So you can make a little basket for yourself.
Yeah, we did it also with uranium.
Yeah.
In fact, we showed how to invest in the mining business and how to invest in uranium itself.
In the companies.
And it's quite something to talk about in 15 minutes. So if you want to know more about, reach out to us. We can more in depth help you.
Exactly, but it's two very interesting, uranium combined with copper, because they are related, and it is something for the next 5 to 10, 20 years maybe.
Yeah. And meanwhile, you get with some companies high dividends.
High dividends, yeah. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for your time.